Here we will see server-side rendering. Server-side rendering or server-side scripting is a technique that is used in the development of websites with dynamic elements and web applications. It is based on the use of scripts that are executed by the web server using the appropriate scripting languages when user requests the corresponding content with the browser. With the initial request, the server generates the HTML and CSS code for a web page and sends it to the client as a fully rendered page. So the client doesn't need to wait for the JavaScript or CSS files to load. Instead, the web page is fully rendered and filled with the necessary content, which leads to a better user experience since the users see the website content faster. Sending a fully rendered page to the web browser leads to faster page load times and helps search engines to effectively index the page, which leads to improved SEO performance. Server-side rendering consists of following steps. First, user enters an address in the browser which sends a request for the page to the server. Then the server processes the request and working out which page the user is requesting. The server does some backend logic such as fetching any data required to generate the page. The server generates a static HTML document by inserting any data fetched from a previous steps into a page template. The HTML is sent to the browser and the page is displayed to the user. Initially, this is just a plain HTML with no JavaScript is added. The linked JavaScript files from the HTML, and when the JavaScript is executed, it attaches event listener and initializes interactive elements by adding interactivity to the page. For example, in an e-commerce product listing page, it allows users to add products to their basket after hydration, but they could still browse the products while waiting for this functionality to load. Working of server-side rendering is as when the applications are using server-side rendering, the client receives the full HTML document and the server will access all the required data and run the JavaScript. It creates a page and sends it entirely back to the client. That is, first client requests to the server, then server executes the JavaScript to fetch the data from the database, and with HTML and CSS, it displays the required data to the client in its browser. Benefits of server-side rendering are accessibility. Here the page is usable without JavaScript. For example, if internet is slow, the user has disabled JavaScript, or the browser is old and the JavaScript fails to run. However, any interactivity or client-side logic will not work. Then crawler friendliness. Search engines, social media crawlers and other bots can easily read the content without needing to execute the JavaScript. Major search engines are capable of executing JavaScript, so pure client-side rendering sites can still be indexed, but social media crawlers usually cannot. And performance. The server can know ahead of time what content is needed and can fetch all necessary data at once. Compared to client-side rendering, where the client is often only aware of further dependencies when it renders the initial page, which cause a waterfall of requests. Then limitation of server-side rendering. First, increased server load. Generating an HTML on the server can be resource intensive, potentially impacting server scalability and performance. More the visitors and page requests, the more server load you will have. Then limited interactivity. With server-side rendering, most of the user interaction require additional round trips to the server, which results in slower subsequent page load. Then development complexity. Implementing server-side rendering may require additional setup and configuration, as well as careful handling of the server-side state management. But fortunately, all popular JavaScript libraries and frameworks provide different sub-frameworks to create server-side application easily. And speed. Servers can process JavaScript and create documents faster than client. The main difference is that the browser waiting for a response from the server a little longer with server-side rendering, since all the work is done on the server. Once the response comes, the site loads instantly and all at once. But this still takes less time than the client-side rendering. Typical programming languages for server-side renderings are Java, Ruby, ASP.NET, Perl, PHP, Python and Node.js or JavaScript.